Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes in a new area. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 lists on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast.
All right, everybody, it's episode 2 of the Working Fans Combatcast. Chevy's back with us, man called Dave, and today we're going to talk about some other aspects of combat sports. All the rage. Everybody's talking about these YouTubers, the Paul brothers, which I know me and Chevy, I don't think, well, at least say this. I don't think we've ever, I think you've watched one of them. I watched the replay of one, but we've never gone in. Even if we're like looking for the event afterwards, looking for the results, I don't think we ever go in rooting for the Paul brothers.
No, first time I've ever seen Floyd as the babyface in a fight. I think
Yeah. How about his brother screaming 50-1? So ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did I heard again? I know you didn't watch this either, but I don't know if you had. I looked it up a little bit, and when they had on Floyd Mayweather's like previous expedition fights, they had Big Show in WrestleMania. I'm like, at that point, like you kind of know what you're in for, right?
That's the same thing, basically.
Right. So, it is very interesting how Floyd too gets people into believing this shit every time, and really he just takes the safest approach. I mean, I have no doubt I think he could knock out Logan Paul. But Logan Paul's, to me, probably a relatively, we'll call him novice, but a much bigger guy, maybe 50, 60 pounds, heavier, younger. And why did Floyd take a chance in Expedition? He makes sure, first off, we're not going to have this possibly go on his record. And then he just takes a safe.
He's a smart man.
He really is. Makes a ton of money off of this. And Logan Paul, honestly, his stock probably went up in some people's eyes after this. He's probably going to make another big payday.
8 rounds. Didn't get knocked out by arguably the best boxer of all time. Definitely our era. I have a lot of respect for all of them, for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't like the Paul brothers, but if I was in their situation, would I say I wouldn't do the same thing? They're getting paid so many millions of dollars to go in there and take a beating for 8 rounds. Sign me up.
Yeah, and like in Jake Paul's case, like he picked the worst MMA striker of all time. No disrespect to Ben.
But he's a world champion.
He's right. And he took it based off like his record and what he'd accomplished. And it was like this guy that so worst striker, but all they can do is box. Oh, and he's coming off hip surgery. And it's like, come on. Like, and I knew it, but because the Paul brothers are such a novice act, we still thought Ben might beat his ass. We didn't know.
Yeah, I was hoping.
Me too.
Instead, I had to watch 6 hours of concert of like WAP, and then watch Ben get knocked out and not be too unhappy about it. You know, not that he should be. He's getting paid millions of dollars for 46 seconds or something like that.
Right.
However long the fight was, but I mean, he came in out of shape. His training videos were, you know, him hitting the bag was the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, he did not look like a professional fighter. He looked like some dad coach. Looked like a wrestling coach.
Yeah. Now, we talked about it. So Jake Paul is supposed to fight Tyron Woodley. I think Woodley's going to knock his ass out. I could be wrong. I know Woodley hasn't looked great in his last fights.
20 rounds. He hasn't won a round in 20 rounds.
No, I know that, but boy, Woodley's got legit power, and he did show that in his last fight that he lost. And this is, and hey, we can say what about Woodley, and I know the Pauls brothers are trying to set this up, but Woodley's the best striker he's ever fought. Like, it's got to be. There's no way. Sure. It's not any fellow YouTuber, and it's not Ben. So this is going to be an interesting gauge, I think, to see where Jake Paul is, because also, I mean, he's not Floyd. He doesn't have that level of skill to box that way, so he's only going to know one way, and that's to come out swinging. And I don't think his chin's that bad, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Woodley trains at Wildcard, and him and Floyd are friends,
right?
And I believe that I read somewhere Floyd said he would train him. Woodley is a real competitor, so I think he's going to take it more serious. And Ben doesn't take all the online triggering or whatever. It's not personal. For Woodley, he takes that stuff personal. With the thing he had with the cornermen and the Askren fight. I don't know. You might just see him come in, take it really serious. This is the most money he's ever going to get paid.
Yeah.
It would be so great. Now, I hope he doesn't do what he's done his last few UFC fights and just sit and wait for a big right hand,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We haven't really seen Jake's head movement in a fight, I guess, but he hasn't needed it. So,
right.
I don't know if he can knock out Woodley. Woodley's a pretty strong guy, good chin against real fighters. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that the other thing too, look at this too, is Woodley's got really nothing to lose. Like, his UFC career is over. Mm-hmm. So if he comes out and knock out this YouTuber, would make some money off of this, it might set up a few spectacle fights for him down the road, or make him a little more valuable to promotions like Bellator and stuff, just coming off that name value. So Woodley getting a win here over some random YouTuber in a boxing match could end up being a really big deal for him. But if he loses, well, he loses. But I think he's going to show up, because I think he knows what's the gain from this at this point in his career.
I think he's got a lot of pride. So I don't know if I'd say he has nothing to lose, because Ben didn't care, but Woodley does not want to lose to a YouTuber. He's a UFC Hall of Famer.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think that he's going to get nervous and freeze under pressure or anything like that. He should be confident going into this fight compared to the last few UFC fights he's had. He's been fighting wrestlers and stuff, so he doesn't have to worry about that. He's just got to not get knocked out and land one big punch on Jake. So hopefully that's what he does.
Do we buy this pay-per-view? Game time decision?
Yeah, I think it's a game time decision. So the Logan Floyd one, I knew 100% I wasn't going to buy that. Right. I knew what was going to happen in that fight. So this one, I would just really like to see Jake get knocked out. I'd, love to see Woodley do that for the boxing and MMA community.
Yes, please, for us.
We'll see. We'll see what other fights are on that night that I'd be not watching instead.
Right. Yeah, that's it. We'll have to see what it goes up against, and what other things might be on that card. Like, I don't think I would tune into that over a real UFC event. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But like, if it's on later in the evening or it's on unimposed, then sure, I might be interested in just checking this out, because like you, I kind of want to see Woodley get his just due here, and I just want to see this kind of end.
Yeah,
like I talked about last episode, like how Conor was really good for the sport, but I don't get the same vibe from this. I feel like, yeah, okay, they're bringing different eyes, but I also feel like this is kind of a mockery in some ways.
All right, well, so to play devil's advocate for that, the plus sides of Jake, he's talking about fighter pay.
Sure.
All the time about Dana. So obviously, props to him for that. And similar to what I said in the previous episode about Conor, I kind of want to know where the story goes after this. So if he does win, where does he go from here? He's going to fight an actual boxer. He's fought, I think this is three or four fights or something. So, maybe he fights an actual lower level boxer at this point if he wins. And he seems like he's trying to parlay into an actual boxing career, which is respectable.
Right.
Even if I, don't agree with he's such a heel, but
he is. Yeah. Which is what he's supposed to do too, right?
Yeah. That's how you make the money.
Right. He's getting the hardcores to hate him, and he's got his casual fan base elsewhere that are going to love him no matter what. So, yeah, they all probably think he's hilarious. We just think he's like this whiny douche, like, just end this guy. So, yeah, there is definitely, like, and I know it. I don't know what I'm fucking. I'm the one who watches pro wrestling since I was 4. Like, I know what the fuck this guy's doing. Right?
Yeah,
he's just really good at it.
Yeah.
Now, because we're probably gonna, like we said before, we're gonna talk mostly UFC on this show. But we've watched a little bit of boxing. For me, I don't know. Like, did you watch boxing at all when you were younger?
Yeah, when I was real young, my dad was into boxing, so I watched fights here and there. I always have been interested in it, but more as like a casual fan. I didn't, follow or stay up for, wait for fights. If they were on, I'd watch them.
Any fights in particular you remember back in the day?
Actually, yeah, I remember. I watched a few older, the great 90s heavyweight era. I watched Tyson and Holyfield, the ear biting. I remember that one, obviously.
Yeah, I was watching that as well. So
Lennox Lewis fights. I remember Lennox Lewis fights, a couple of those. But lately I've been into, Lomachenko at Teofimo, who just beat Loma. Like, super impressive that fight. Very impressive. So, I mean, his next fight, I think, is on Triller. So, I mean, I won't be watching that because I'll never order another Triller card again. But, he's an exciting prospect for sure.
Yeah, Ryan Garcia is another guy, too. I watched recently. Some good finishes. I grew up, like, on the Sugar Ray Leonards, the Marvin Hagler. I was lucky enough to get that era of boxing, like Tommy Hearns. Those great lighter rates. Roberto Duran was another one. I watched this guy, Iran Barkley, fight Roberto Duran, like, on ESPN when I was a kid. It was just like this 10, 12-round war where they beat the shit out of each other. And just amazing stuff. I got a little bit of that 90s era and of heavyweights. I remember George Foreman made his comeback and knocked out Michael Moore, which my father being a fight fan from the 70s and 60s, obviously that was a big deal for us.
Yeah.
But it's funny. There was such a long period where I took off of boxing. because the fights just weren't exciting anymore for me. UFC was just great. And what really got me start looking back at boxing, though, was Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, that first fight. Again, kind of we talked about a little bit today, such great trash talk. These two great characters where, Fury is just hilarious and cutting him down. But Wilder is like this super knockout artist, intimidating guy who's like going, Bomb Squad! And I'm like, oh, I can't wait. And that first fight was so fun.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, we thought like Fury just outclassed him for most of it, but then 2 times, he knocks him down. One time knocks him out, and then Fury rises from the dead.
Yeah, like the Undertaker. Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful stuff. And it ends up being a draw, and okay, we're hooked. And then I don't know, second fight. I like the showmanship, I like the build, but this one I thought a little more convincing. Fury obviously outclassed him. Corner throws in the towel, and I think they're going to do that fight next, even though I think some of us want to see Joshua and Fury next, but I don't think that's happening.
Wilder enacted his rematch clause, I believe. So,
yeah,
he better win for his sake because he's going to be the most hated man in boxing if he loses again. So,
yeah. Do you think we'll see? I mean, anything's possible, but in the near future, do you think we see one of these boxers get into a legitimate MMA fight in any promotion, whether it's UFC, Bellator, nothing soon? Not enough money.
Yeah, not enough money, and maybe for some sort of mixed rules thing, like Conor and Floyd were talking about at one point, but they just have no chance. Right. It's be so easy to take them down or kick their legs, or it's too many weapons. They can't prepare for that.
Yeah,
distance is different. Yeah, it's just one discipline, so it'd be really tough for them.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anybody, I think, in UFC? Obviously, for the most part, no, we want to see him stay in the UFC. But is there anybody you'd be curious to watch them, how they would fare in a boxing match? Any UFC fighters in particular? For me, it's Max Holloway.
Max Holloway. I know that Kelvin Kattar got the brakes beat off him by Max, but his boxing is actually really good. Poirier, good boxing. Sure. Who would probably do really well in a boxing match? Nate Diaz.
Right. The Diaz brothers. Yeah,
probably be pretty good in a boxing match, but
I wonder how Stylebender would do. Be interesting. He had to kickboxing.
Kickboxing, so
different.
People don't understand that. The top of my head, but you think about a lot of the lighter weight classes too. I think Mighty Mouse might do well in boxing. I
know Francis wants to do it, but I mean, it's tough when that's all you're doing is boxing, and you're limited. You're going to be limited as your striking repertoire because that's all they work on in boxing, and so it's a different animal, like you said. The only thing with Francis is that he just has that lights out power, so you just never know.
That's going to translate over to boxing for sure. If he does in a boxing match where he did to Rosenstrike, he just rushes in and just throws punches. Anyone's going down from that. It doesn't matter if you're the best boxer of all time.
Yeah, because I know James Toney tried MMA from boxing, and he got outclassed by Randy Couture. But I know there was one instance in like a regional promotion where I want to say Ray Mercer, a heavyweight boxer, knocked out Tim Sylvia. But it was a situation where, again, you're dealing with heavyweights, and Tim Sylvia, for whatever reason, just didn't go for a takedown or anything. He decides he wants to just strike with him and then ducks his head, and then he's a right hand. I'm like, what are you thinking,
Yeah, that's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're probably not going to rent any future Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fights if they do a rematch, which I do wonder if that's going to happen at some point, if they're going to try to parlay that into a rematch.
I think Floyd saw the writing on the wall, maybe the fact that he couldn't finish an 0-1-1 boxer.
Do you think
I've got enough money?
Do you think? Yeah. So you think we're done with Floyd then?
I think Floyd's done with the exhibition fights. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we're not going to see, and we're definitely not going to see him in there like with Pacquiao or somebody.
No, that'll never happen. No.
No.
You will never risk that record.
No.
Maybe Conor again if he got real crazy, because that'd be another multiple $100 million payday. So that might get him in there, but I don't think any more exhibition fights for him. I think, he obviously was winning the fight, but the fact that he didn't knock out Logan is a loss for Floyd.
Absolutely. Now, just to close this episode out, is there any, and I guess this is a question kind of come out of left field a little bit, but is there, we didn't talk about this, but like off the top of your head, is there any kind of like interesting boxer versus MMA fight you'd like to see?
Boxer versus MMA fighter.
In either realm, like it could be Tyson Fury going in there and actually attempting an MMA fight. If we could have our pick, and there wasn't a money issue involved.
Tyson Fury, I mean, he has great foot movement. That might translate. So if he learns some takedown defense, he might do well at heavyweight because that's where you need the least amount of technical skills, obviously. And he has the stand up. So if he learns takedown defense, he might be able to do it at heavyweight.
That's for me the one.
Yeah.
Like I want to see Fury and Nagano if I had my pick in a boxing and in an MMA fight. Like if they agreed, gentleman's agreement, they agreed to do both because it's one of those ones where I think just the way there's certain skill levels match up, it could make for an interesting night. I think Fury is so good at the footwork that I would favor him in a boxing match, obviously, with all that experience too. But I could see Francis catching him. And like you said too, maybe Francis isn't the guy who's going to necessarily take you down. So is Francis the one guy that, like, stylistically, he might not match up as well in that. So it's funny. I don't know. It's a funny matchup, I think. And it's one of the few times where I think the boxer does kind of look favorably against an MMA fighter, where you wouldn't think it because Nagano is such a monster. But just because of the way they fight, I think it'd be interesting.
If he can gauge the, wildness and the unorthodox nature of Francis's style.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that. Well, who knows? I guess Francis went for some takedowns against Stipe. Now that he has Usman in his corner.
True.
So if he enjoyed that,
might
be dangerous.
Hopefully for Tyson.
Might see a whole new Francis.
Tyson, he doesn't start using leg kicks.
Right.
That'll end that night pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure.
To quote Rogan, doesn't he want to fuck him up? Why would you use leg kicks?
Yeah.
But all right, so this is episode 2 of the books, and we're going to be looking for ideas for episode 3. I got a few fighters like to profile. We might start doing 5-3-1s on here. I'm going to talk to some people, see if we can get some list ideas, and hey, who knows? Maybe we'll even get a few fighters to actually agree to do an interview with us. We'll see how that goes. Try to get Rory McDonald on here. I don't know.
Yeah.
he might want some money. But anybody wants that, maybe we'll do a GoFundMe. Help us get Rory on our show. But all right, fans, that'll do it for the Combatcast. Dave, Chevy, we're out.